The story kicks off with a boss introducing the company's new intern, Meng Shu. He uses the moment to pump up the team, promising a project launch and bonuses for everyone. Sitting at his desk, our protagonist is full of dreams. Fresh out of college, he believes that hard work pays off and that he'll soon get rich programming for the company. But just 1 week later, reality hits differently. He's now working late into the night, looking more like a machine than a person. With eyes red from exhaustion, he stares at the lines of code until he finally collapses onto his keyboard, the weight of reality and despair convincing him that all his effort won't pull him out of poverty. Completely drained of energy, he throws himself back in his chair, only able to think about how nice it would be if the world just ended right then and there. He doesn't even see the point in going to sleep, knowing he'll just be exploited again tomorrow. He simply wishes the world would be destroyed by aliens so his suffering could end. Suddenly, a strange noise echoes, and our beloved system appears, announcing that the perfect life system has been activated. With that, he opens his eyes, completely clueless, and wonders what that sound he just heard was. In front of him was a complete status window, showing his name, his stats, and welcoming him to the perfect life system. Meng Shu is left totally confused about what's happening, but he quickly gets hyped when he realizes he's got a system, telling overtime and his boss to take a hike. Excited, he throws everything in the air, celebrating that he'll never have to work again. But at that exact moment, an explosion rocks the world outside, and looking out the window, he realizes the gas pipeline has exploded. The explosion has thrown the street into complete chaos, and there were zombies everywhere, and these zombies were attacking people and destroying everything in their path. Our protagonist watches it all, completely bewildered, and then he closes the curtain to hide. Desperate, he turns to the system and asks what its name was again, because this didn't look anything like a perfect life. The floating screen confirms it's the perfect life system, but Meng Shu points to the window, saying it looks more like the end of the world. Even with the mess, he tries to stay calm, and then a woman slams her impressive assets right into the door. The noise makes him turn to see what's going on, and our beautiful zombie was banging relentlessly on the glass door. Meng Shu then realizes she looked familiar. He remembers seeing this same woman earlier in the elevator, and even thought she was pretty, but now her appearance has completely changed, and she's transformed into a terrifying creature. Seeing the woman's current state, he says to forget whatever he thought about her being pretty. Immediately, the system gives him a new mission: flirt with the woman to have a perfect date, which leaves our protagonist speechless. Meng Shu then starts searching for anything useful in the office, grabbing some supplies and a water jug, and then he sits down and concludes that just standing around is pointless. Since he has a mission to do, he decides to face the challenge to understand how the system works. With that, our protagonist goes to the door and unlocks it. As soon as he opens the door, the zombie falls over, and while she's trying to get up, Meng Shu approaches her, introduces himself, and asks if they can be friends. Seeing that the woman doesn't respond, he gets a bit awkward and says he'll take her silence as a yes. Right after that, the protagonist runs back inside and quickly shuts the door, leaving the zombie completely confused. The creature sits on the floor, trying to process what just happened. But soon enough, she goes back to acting like a zombie again and starts banging her head against the glass door. Meng Shu then wonders if that counts as starting a conversation. Suddenly, the system criticizes him for his terrible attempt at flirting, which surprises him as he learns that tasks have ratings. Despite the bad score, he gets 1 attribute point and plus 10 favorability with the zombie, and he finds out her name is Chai Wei. He initially thinks the reward is useless, but then considers that maybe with high favorability, she'll stop trying to attack him. The system explains that as favorability increases, the target will feel a desire to get closer and will obey his words as if they were a couple. The protagonist is confused by that last part and wonders if he can now control zombies or if he just got himself a zombie girlfriend. Frustrated by the lack of information, our protagonist complains that the system doesn't even have a tutorial to help him out. So, he decides he'll figure it all out on his own and orders the system to add the attribute point to strength. With his decision made, he feels a new sensation coursing through his body. The system screen confirms the point was successfully added, and his strength value is now 11. A blue aura surrounds him, and he feels much stronger, declaring that he's ready for the apocalypse. In a post-apocalyptic world, all attributes like spirit, constitution, and agility are important for survival. But for our protagonist at the moment, nothing is more crucial than brute force. After adding the point to strength, he feels an indescribable power flowing through him. He gathers the few supplies he found in the office and realizes that without outside help, the food will soon run out. At that moment, a new task is activated by the system. He needs to clock in for work in 17 minutes. The system continues to explain that whoever clocks in on time will be blessed by the goddess of luck and have good fortune. The task reward is 5 attribute points and the chance to be noticed by his boss. However, he realizes that the time clock is outside, and to complete the mission, he needs to get past the zombie, Chi Wei. He watches Chi Wei from the other side of the door and notices that her hunger for him seems to have grown. In that instant, the system screen displays his two current tasks: clock in and flirt with the woman. Then, a note informs him that the flirting mission can be re-evaluated if his performance improves drastically. With this new information, the protagonist has the brilliant idea that he can complete both tasks at the same time. He figures the most dangerous thing about zombies is the infection, and as long as he doesn't get scratched, he'll be fine. Faced with the situation, he grabs a pair of scissors and starts preparing for the mission. Using paper and tape, he improvises some armor and a spear, saying that since it's the perfect life system, it wouldn't give him an impossible task. Fully equipped, our protagonist opens the office door. As soon as he steps out, he's faced with a hallway packed with zombies that turn to stare at him. Without hesitation, he advances towards Chi Wei and declares his feelings, asking her to go out with him. He continues, saying he doesn't have a car or a house, but promises to work hard, and invites her to dinner on Thursday. While dodging attacks, our hero thinks that using cheesy pickup lines might earn him extra points. But to his surprise, the system calls him a loser for being rude and talking too much, resulting in the loss of 10 favorability points with Chi Wei. The zombie then seems to snap out of her irrational state and glares at him with a look of contempt. Seeing the woman's unexpected reaction, the protagonist gets completely embarrassed and starts to sweat. Hiding in a nearby room, two men watch the scene, and one of them asks if the voice they heard belongs to Meng Shu. The other man wonders what he's doing confessing to Chi Wei, since she had been caught by the manager. Shocked by the situation, one of the men says Meng Shu has completely lost it and that he always thought he was a bit weird. However, the strangest thing for them is the fact that Chi Wei isn't attacking our protagonist. Seeing an opportunity, the manager decides to call Meng Shu over and asks the other man to make some noise to attract attention. After clocking in, our hero turns to go back to the office. As he passes the door, he notices there are zombies in the other offices too and laments that everyone has turned into workhorses. The system then notifies him that the task was completed successfully 3 minutes ahead of schedule and that his rating is normal person. He receives 5 points and a warning that his boss will notice him more. But Meng Shu doesn't care since the world is ending. With the points, he opens the system shop and sees he can buy cash, cookies, or energy drinks. He finds the items useless and wonders who would spend 5,000 points on cash in the middle of an apocalypse. Meng Shu concludes that even though Chi Wei isn't attacking him, there are still many other zombies in the building, and decides to go back to the office to plan his next move. As he prepares to return, he hears someone calling his name. The manager appears at a nearby door and asks Meng Shu to get Chi Wei away from there. The protagonist recognizes him as Manager Zhang and questions his change of attitude and what he's doing in the office next door. Our protagonist decides to see what the problem is and approaches to help, since in an apocalypse, more people mean more strength. The manager, with a smile on his face, opens the door for Meng Shu to enter, but as soon as our protagonist gets close, the manager slams the door in his face. He thanks him for the distraction and promises a promotion after the crisis passes, leaving Meng Shu locked outside with the zombies. But to their surprise, Chi Wei doesn't attack our protagonist. Meng Shu scoffs at the manager, saying he's a real comedian. At that moment, the system congratulates him for getting the boss's attention and reminds him of the #1 rule of work: never go against your boss. The protagonist then wishes the manager a good morning and suggests they go back to work in their office. The manager refuses the suggestion and tells him to fend for himself, leaving the two men terrified. The two wonder if Meng Shu has truly lost his mind. Desperate, they try to lock the door and push furniture to block it. The manager rushes the other man, shouting for him to push faster, but Meng Shu breaks down the door with a single kick, sending the manager to the floor. With a sinister smile, our protagonist wishes his coworkers a good morning. He says he's heading to work and says goodbye. The two men are left completely confused as Meng Shu walks away. After leaving the office, Meng Shu is followed by Chi Wei, who advances toward him. She then spots the other men who were in the room and leaps towards them, and after she enters the room, the protagonist watches them screaming for help and then closes the door and locks them inside with the zombie. The system praises him for his attitude and completes the task with a perfect rating. He receives a letter of recommendation and another 5 points of professional experience, but loses favorability with his leader and colleagues. A secret achievement is unlocked: Gen Z reforming the workplace. The achievement reward is 5,000 in cash, and the system suggests he use it to take his colleagues out for a barbecue. Meng Shu finds it ironic to receive cash in the middle of an apocalypse, but saves it, thinking it might be useful in the future. He then opens his email and finds the letter of recommendation he earned. The letter allows him to choose a new profession, which gets him excited about the possibility of becoming a warrior or a mage. Thrilled with the opportunity, he accepts without hesitation and confirms the use of the letter. To his surprise, the new profession he acquires is flyer distributor. distributor, which leaves him extremely disappointed. He wonders how he's supposed to hand out flyers in the middle of a zombie apocalypse. Despite the ridiculous profession, he acknowledges that the system is incredible and questions what he's going to advertise. The system offers 3 flyer distribution tasks for him to choose from. The options are for a swimming academy, a law firm, and a real estate agency. He chooses the academy task because it requires less work and offers more experience. The system scolds him for choosing the easy way out, but he doesn't care and questions the usefulness of the experience. A notification informs him that for every level gained in his profession, he'll earn attribute points and special skills. He reflects that, although ridiculous, the system is right about starting from the bottom. With that in mind, he believes that if he increases his stats, he can survive the apocalypse and witness the rebuilding of civilization. The task is selected, and he receives a stack of flyers. The system instructs him to shout promotional slogans while distributing the flyers to gain extra experience. In the hallway, he runs into Chi-Wei again, who glares at him with contempt. Her favorability with him drops drastically. Meng-Shu tries to talk to her, but with each attempt, the favorability decreases even more. The protagonist panics as he watches his favorability plummet. He laments the situation and says that if Chi-Wei knew him better, she'd see that he's a positive and motivated person. Trying a friendlier approach, he approaches her with a smile, but the favorability continues to fall. Suddenly, he hears screams for help, and the manager and his colleague were turning into zombies. He approaches and confronts them, saying they tried to harm him first and shouldn't have a bad impression of him. With a sinister smile, he takes the swimming academy flyers and starts handing them out to the 2 men. Even though they show no reaction, our boy just tosses the flyers. The system then scolds him for throwing the flyers at the customer's feet, but he defends himself, saying they dodged. He questions why the 2 of them tried to harm him and says he won't talk about it anymore, and declares that even in the afterlife, they won't go to a better place and that he will help them find a new job. He says that for the job, they'll need their legs, and then he announces that he's taking the 2 of them to clean the building. Elsewhere, a woman was checking the news on her phone and notices that everything is in chaos because of the zombie apocalypse. Crying desperately, she wonders why the world has become like this and starts begging for help and protection. Suddenly, she hears the sound of a door being kicked. Terrified, she realizes the zombies are coming. Then someone starts shouting. It was Meng-Shu offering swimming and fitness classes to the zombies and asking if this counts as a quality client. Hearing this, she gets confused and wonders what he means by quality client. He then prepares to open the door. While outside, Meng-Shu continues to distribute his flyers. She is terrified when she sees it. Meanwhile, Meng-Shu explains to the zombies that his club is specially designed for white-collar zombies. He tries to convince them, saying that learning to swim will make them more competitive, and offers a free trial class. The woman is completely perplexed by the scene and wonders if she's seeing things. She types a final message on her phone in case she doesn't make it. In it, she describes seeing a man selling gym memberships to zombies. Back to the protagonist, he declares that the 2 zombies are now useless to him and calls his corporate slave zombies to leave. With his new guide dogs, he can now explore the building more safely. He explains that this is called positioning in gaming terms. After a while, he stops to rest. Having already distributed over 200 flyers, he decides to take a break before continuing. Meng-Shu then opens the system screen. The screen shows his progress and the option to level up. With a sarcastic smile, he decides to level up in the promising profession of flyer distributor. The system confirms his success and he advances to level 1. As a flyer distributor, he gains attribute bonuses to resist extreme weather conditions and have more speed. He gets excited to see his stats have increased and discovers his new ability to read people. The ability allows him to see a target's profession and level, as long as it's not too different from his own. He relaxes in a chair, feeling great about his progress, but the sound of chaos outside reminds him of reality. Helicopters fly over the city as explosions happen everywhere. He calculates that there are enough zombies in the building to complete his task without needing to go outside. Using his new ability, he analyzes one of the zombies and sees its favorability is -100. He's disappointed that the favorability is still negative even after taking them for a walk. He decides it's useless to talk to them and that he hasn't given them flyers yet. Suddenly, he has an idea. With a wicked smile, he offers a 20% discount for friends and a break your bones discount for those who don't buy. He throws the flyers at the zombies. The zombie that was with the manager earlier unexpectedly attacks him, but Meng-Shu easily stops it with his spear, and the zombie falls to the ground completely finished. And Meng-Shu leaves a flyer on the defeated zombie. He notices that new zombies have appeared. Upon using his Read People ability, he notes that the new zombies have no favorability level. He deduces that Chi-Wei and the manager have levels in favorability because they are linked to system tasks. He turns to his zombie companions and asks if they don't find the world abnormal. He tries to slap them but misses. Meng-Shu concludes that he's the normal one here and asks them not to hate him so much. He untees the ropes that were holding them. Determined, he prepares to continue distributing flyers. A new task appears informing him that the lunch break is over, and he needs to go to the 11th floor to negotiate with Supervisor Lin. He smiles at the prospect of a new task. The elevator door opens. Mengshu approaches the elevators. He decides to take his zombie companions with him. Afraid to face the supervisor alone, he thinks it's good to have harmonious and friendly coworkers. With that, the group starts moving toward their objective. Mengshu runs down the hall, pulling his two zombie companions by their improvised leash. He motivates them by saying that working hard means having a fearless and unwavering spirit, while the creatures just roar in response. Suddenly, as they turn a corner, they run into a horde of zombies blocking the path. With a confident smile, the protagonist yells for them to clear the way and orders them to advance. He then uses Chi Wei and the manager as a vanguard to fight against the other undead. The zombie manager proves to be quite effective in combat, fiercely attacking the other creatures. However, a stronger zombie with a different appearance emerges in front of them. Mengshu wastes no time and charges at the new enemy with his spear. The fight intensifies, and the protagonist has to deal with several zombies at once. A blonde zombie with notable features tries to attack him, but with a precise move, our hero finishes the creature off. After the intense battle, the hallway is covered with defeated zombies. Finally, the protagonist reaches his destination, the 11th floor. With a determined look, he prepares for what's to come. Arriving at Supervisor Lin's office, the protagonist faces one last zombie, which he defeats with ease, while his zombie hounds just watch from a distance, completely terrified. With a threatening air, he steps into a puddle of grime and asks if Supervisor Lin is in. He introduces himself as Mengshu from Jianglan Technology and says he was sent to discuss the parking issue. With a confident smile, he questions where the supervisor is, since they had a scheduled meeting. The system congratulates him on his ferocity and informs him that he has intimidated the employees of Wanxiang International. The task is completed with a perfect rating, and he receives a large amount of cash, experience, and attribute points. With the mission accomplished, he decides to take the opportunity to loot the resources on the 11th floor. He then puts his companions to work, and then ties a rope, and this rope was to tie up his zombies in a rather strange way so they couldn't escape. He looks at his watch and is surprised to see it's only 3 in the afternoon. He laments being so brainwashed by work that he'd think about clocking out at the end of the world. To relax, he opens a bottle of soda and sits in a chair to gather his thoughts and plan his next steps. The protagonist analyzes the situation and concludes that the virus appeared randomly, but the loss of cell signal is very suspicious. This leads him to believe it might be a premeditated, worldwide attack, and that his priority now is to increase his combat capability. Faced with the situation, he decides to use the attribute point he earned and orders the system to add it to strength. The system confirms the addition and his strength is now 12. He decides he'll focus on this attribute until he can defeat zombies with ease. With the decision made, he accesses the system screen to check his status. The screen shows he has enough experience points to level up in both his professions, and he notices that the office clerk 1 requires more points. He wonders which attribute the office clerk profession increases, since the flyer distributor 1 increased his agility. Without a second thought, he allocates all the points to the office clerk profession and confirms the choice to see what happens. The system informs him that the office clerk profession improves spirit and constitution attributes, but warns him not to overwork, or his spirit will decrease. Upon leveling up, he gains 2 spirit points and half a constitution point, in addition to the professional skill, killing time. He's confused by the new skill and wonders what killing time means. The description explains that it's a passive ability that decreases the frequency with which his boss notices him. He finds the skill interesting and realizes it will increase his safety while gathering resources with his 2 zombie colleagues. Suddenly, a new daily task is activated, requiring him to work diligently. Our protagonist despairs upon realizing he'll have to work even at the end of the world and complains that the system is too stingy. Resigned, he turns on the computer and decides to work. He sits down and starts typing, exhausted. The system informs him that the workday is over, and he receives rewards for his diligent work. Relieved, he stretches in his chair, celebrating the end of a torturous day. He then goes to the time clock and clocks out. Upon returning to his desk, he finds a pile of cash and wonders what use it is. The system explains that the cash can be used for gacha polls with guaranteed special prizes. Excited by this news, he decides to do the polls immediately. He chooses the option for 10 polls at once. The poll gets him instant noodles, mineral water, a suit, and a bodyguard talent. He's curious to know what the bodyguard talent is. The description informs him that upon using the item, an experienced bodyguard will appear within a 3-kilometer radius. He realizes that the talent doesn't guarantee the bodyguard's loyalty. Even so, he decides to use the item in the hope of getting an expert. He starts to ponder whether he should start a company to unlock new tasks. Mengshu savors a bowl of instant noodles. He decides that if he's going to do something, he might as well do it in style. He imagines himself as a successful boss, smoking a cigar and drinking wine. Satisfied, he burps and yawns, feeling ready for whatever comes next. Suddenly, a system notification alerts him to intruders in the building. A new task is activated to protect company property. With a wicked smile, he declares that the company is his home, and he won't let anyone steal what's his. Elsewhere, a man in a hockey mask takes care of some zombies. He complains that a woman named Huang Jia attracted all the zombies with her screams and asks his partner what they should do. The man, named John, says they should look for supplies in the building since they lost everything they had. John tells his partner to go ahead, saying he'll cover his back. The partner is suspicious but obeys. He pulls out a knife while the other goes up the stairs. The blonde guy stops suddenly when he hears a noise. He asks why he stopped, and the blonde guy says he heard footsteps and fears they might be zombies. John dismisses the possibility of them being zombies and concludes there are survivors in the building. The blonde guy agrees hesitantly and continues up. He peeks through a crack and is startled by what he sees. Mengshu surprises him from behind and greets him. The blonde guy falls backwards, startled. John asks how many people are on the floor and if they have food. With an innocent smile, Mengshu says the company is private property and that the security guards should have stopped them. He complains that he needs to file a complaint against the security company. The protagonist crosses his arms with a serious expression. He warns them that trespassing is illegal and threatens to call a lawyer. The two intruders are terrified and confused. Jean glares at him and says he doesn't know what it's like out there. Tired of the conversation, Jean advances with a baseball bat. Mengshu sighs and prepares to show what he's capable of. He calls his zombie companions into the fight, since he can't count on security. The blonde guy yells for Jean to attack first. Since there are more people on the floor, Mengshu and the two intruders face off, ready to fight. The blonde guy throws a knife toward the protagonist, but Mengshu dodges it with ease and goes on the attack. He takes down the blonde guy with a single blow. With a sinister smile, he spins the lug wrench and declares himself to be heaven itself. Jung grabs two baseball bats and prepares to fight. He acknowledges Mengshu's skills but isn't intimidated. He gets ready to attack. The protagonist reveals he dipped the lug wrench in iodine to disinfect while he fights. He advances with his zombie companions and says the intruder is asking for trouble. He finally gets the chance to say the line he's always wanted to. With a confident look, he prepares for battle. John is terrified when he sees the zombies. Mengshu advances to attack the fallen blonde guy. The blonde guy panics and starts to sweat. He screams for his brother and flees down the stairs. Mengshu stops them, saying they can't leave and must face the legal consequences. He points at them and orders his zombie companions to attack, but the zombies don't move and he gets embarrassed. He realizes the zombies are disgusted with him and don't want to get close. Jun grabs the blonde guy's arm. He stops him from running and questions him. Jun asks why the zombies aren't attacking Mengshu. The protagonist starts to slowly climb the stairs. The two intruders watch as Mengshu and his zombie companions approach. He reveals that he is the company's public safety activist. The blonde guy asks what they should do, and John tells him to attack the zombies. The blonde guy refuses, scared. John then suggests they jump from the third floor to escape. The blonde guy looks out the window, sees the street packed with zombies, and says jumping will only attract more of them, making the situation worse. With no choice, John decides he won't run anymore and prepares to fight to the end. From there, he charges full force at our protagonist, who warns him that anything that happens next will be purely self-defense. Seeing the action, Manager Jung moves to protect our hero while he holds Chi Wei back. The man in the hockey mask isn't intimidated and lands a powerful blow on the creature's head. Despite the impact, the zombie shows no sign of pain, and the intruder is shocked by the scene. Taking advantage of the distraction, Mengshu throws his lug wrench, which collides with John's bat. The impact throws the intruder off balance, and he falls to the ground. Seeing the zombie approach, he accepts his fate. The creature attacks without mercy while our protagonist cleans his ear and reminds them he told them not to trespass. Mengshu complains that now he has to clean up the whole mess and mocks John for still moving despite being weak. With a threatening gaze, he warns the blonde guy that if he tries to run, Manager Jong will come after him. The young man is completely terrified by the threat and starts to break out in a cold sweat. Cowering in the corner, he laments that a public safety activist is using zombies to beat people up. Our hero looks at his sullied tool and concludes that maybe he went a bit overboard with the self-defense. He steps over John's body and with his companions by his side, sarcastically says he'll call an ambulance. The protagonist tells the blonde guy to call the police and that he'll call his defense attorney. Mengshu then hurries him along, phone in hand, asking if he's deaf. The guy grabs the phone terrified and makes the call, thinking our hero is a complete psycho. Then he starts apologizing and putting all the blame on John, saying he was forced into it. Mengshu looks at him with contempt and questions what laws would be for if an apology solved everything. That being said, he tells the blonde guy to get out of his sight, as he's too lazy to deal with him. With a sinister smile, our protagonist suggests he jump from the third floor, since it wouldn't be a fatal drop. Without hesitation, the guy throws himself out the window to escape the situation. He shatters the glass and falls toward the street, which is full of zombies. Mengshu turns to John and comments that his injuries look pretty serious. He mocks him, saying that at least now abuse beauty like Chi Wei will take care of him. With that said, our hero bids farewell and leaves, letting his two companions finish the job. The office door opens, revealing the empty interior. Back to work, he grabs a few more flyers and decides that's enough for one day. Suddenly, the system surprises him with a notification that his zombies' favorability has increased because he gave them food. Meng Shu is furious when he sees the notification and wonders who told the zombies to like him, even demanding a refund for the food. He then throws the flyers in the air and runs off, saying he needs to go talk to Chi Wei and the manager to calm them down, because they absolutely cannot like him. At that moment, a new system window appears before his eyes. The screen encourages him to seek a perfect life through entrepreneurship and activates a new long-term mission: start a business. Our hero becomes suspicious and questions if the system is spying on him, since he had just been thinking about it. From there, he starts to imagine what it would be like to have a food stall and thinks the idea isn't so bad. But his imagination is soon interrupted by the image of a customer sneezing on the food, and he realizes zombies wouldn't eat that. A new task appears, informing him that Supervisor Lin from the 12th floor still hasn't moved his car, and that he needs to teach him a lesson. The mission requires him to create a customer service company to defeat Wanxiang International, with very generous rewards. Our protagonist is left completely speechless by the complexity of the new task. With a mischievous smile, he accepts the challenge and says the system has already laid out his entire plan. He then details his plan of action, which consists of fixing his companion's brains and downsizing 60% of the other company's employees. Without wasting time, he heads to the entrance of Wanxiang International, ready to begin. Accompanied by his two companions, he points forward and orders them to advance, even though their favorability is still negative. Immediately after, our hero leaps towards a horde of zombies, ready to clear a path with his lug wrench. With a swift movement, he swings his lug wrench, and together with his companions, he begins to fire all the zombie employees he finds along the way. In a short time, the hallway is cleared and covered with defeated creatures, while our hero and his zombies emerge unscathed. Our hero comments that he laid off at least a dozen people in that attack. He wipes his hand on one of the zombies and decides that's enough for today, as he'll wait to level up before finishing the job. With that, he turns around and tells everyone to leave the area. Meanwhile, in a nearby restroom, the door is locked, and there are some empty cans on the floor. Inside, a young woman is on the floor, completely starved and weak. She sits up and complains about how long the delivery guy is taking. Already in tears, she begs for him to show up soon because she can't wait any longer. Suddenly, she hears a voice outside and gets scared. It was Meng Shu trying to sell houses to zombies. The woman is completely confused as he continues his speech, saying the city's largest developer has a new offer. She covers her mouth in fear upon hearing the protagonist suggest that the zombies buy a new place to live and get rid of their daily fatigue. With a trembling hand, she decides to open the door to see what's happening. Upon opening the door, she's in shock and asks if he heard her calling for him. With a tear rolling down her face, she stares at our hero, unable to believe what she's seeing. The woman is completely paralyzed with fear as she watches the scene. Peeking through the crack, she sees our protagonist surrounded by zombies and begs for them to stop attacking the man of her dreams. She extends her hand out the door as if she could do something to help. The woman continues to say that he's the only one she wants, while Meng Shu dodges an attack with a smile on his face. With an agile move, our hero runs one of the creatures through with his spear. Facing the zombies, he scoffs, saying they're eager to see the new apartments and asks them to form a line. He then leaps over the monsters, continuing his relentless attack. The woman is on her knees on the bathroom floor, completely shocked and covered in splatters. The protagonist stands amidst the defeated bodies, and the woman watches him, thinking how terrifying he is. He wipes the sweat from his forehead, and the survivor wonders if he's even human. The hero turns his face with a serious and determined expression, ready for whatever comes next. The woman huddles on the bathroom floor, still in shock from everything that just happened. Soon after, she hears approaching footsteps and realizes he's coming toward her. Our protagonist stops right in front of the bathroom door where the woman is hiding. With a smile on his face, he introduces himself and asks if she's interested in swimming, legal advice, or the pre-sale of a new house. The system notifies him that he is now a level 2 office clerk as he stares at the woman on the bathroom floor. With a hand on her chest and visibly relieved, the survivor asks if he's still alive. Our protagonist flashes a smile and shows her his flyers, celebrating that he's finally found someone alive to be his client. Shortly after, they move to a law office so they can talk more calmly. Sitting on the couch, the woman introduces herself as Shen Zhaoxiao to the supposed lawyer, who is actually the zombie manager tied to a chair. She begins to explain that she needs help with a legal issue for a friend, but is startled by the the lawyer's appearance. Meng-Shu then takes control of the conversation, and with his 2 zombie companions by his side, he glares at her menacingly. With a sinister smile, he extends his hand toward Shen Zhaoxiao, who shrinks back in fear. The woman panics and wonders how it's possible for that man to control zombies. The protagonist loses patience with her silence and starts shouting, criticizing her college and demanding an answer. Desperate, Shen Zhaoxiao breaks down and tells him that a friend of hers was suffering at work and ended up being attacked by her boss. With that, the system notifies Meng-Shu that he has attracted a client and completed the task, leveling up his flyer distributor profession. Our protagonist flashes a satisfied smile and praises the good work they did together. He approaches the woman, holding his lug wrench, and calmly calls her by her name. Meng-Shu congratulates her on her excellent performance and invites her to come back anytime for more legal advice, swimming, and even to buy a new house. Crying, the woman thanks the protagonist and says he's a very kind person. With a mischievous smile, he interrupts her and asks if she has paid for the service yet. The woman is completely confused by the question and doesn't understand what he means. Our hero then points to the zombie manager and explains that a consultation with the lawyer costs 200 per hour and that she must pay for the half hour she used. The zombie manager seems moved by the recognition of his work and starts to cry. Faced with our protagonist's flawless logic, the woman agrees that he's right. Seizing the opportunity, Meng-Shu says he's thinking of starting a business and invites her to work with him. Shen Zhaoxiao considers the proposal and concludes that although he's strange, he's strong enough to protect her. So she bows and accepts the offer, introducing herself as his new employee. The system congratulates him on the hire but warns him that starting a company requires licenses and procedures. A screen with the details of the new company then appears, and he complains to the system about all the bureaucracy in the middle of the apocalypse. Despite his complaint, he turns to his new employee and says they need to go to the 4th floor because starting a business is hard. Even the zombie manager nods and grunts something in agreement with his new boss. On the way, he offers Shen Zhaoxiao a soda, showing a kinder side. Back in the office, he announces that he has decided on the company name Peace and Order. The system successfully confirms the choice. With a smile and a thumbs up, Shen Zhaoxiao praises the company name, saying it's great. Our protagonist goes to the window and feels like a winner for having his own business so soon. His new employee claps and praises him non-stop, saying he's incredible. Suddenly, a noise breaks the mood. Her stomach is growling with hunger, and she gets embarrassed. The protagonist then shows her a pile of instant noodles and tells her to eat as much as she wants, since it's very cheap. With sparkling eyes, Shen Zhaoxiao thanks him and says he's the best boss in the world. Without wasting time, she starts devouring the noodles with great enthusiasm. Each bite brings a new sensation to the woman, who hadn't eaten in days. She feels like she's on cloud 9 and wonders if this is true happiness. After eating, she relaxes on the couch with a warm drink, looking much more at ease. Meng-Shu then officially appoints her as the company's office clerk and tells her to print a work contract. The woman is completely confused and wonders why on earth she would be making spreadsheets in the middle of the apocalypse. With a mocking smile, he asks if she doesn't know how to use Excel, and startled, she confirms that she knows how to use the program. Immediately after, he points to the door and introduces her to her new coworkers, Shi Wei and Zhang Tao. Shen Zhaoxiao is terrified to see the 2 zombies, but the protagonist reassures her, saying they're just the security guards. With an amused smile, Meng-Shu warns her to keep her distance from the security guards because they're not friendly at all. Shen Zhaoxiao is terrified and starts imagining the worst possible scene, questioning if she's already gone and all of this is a hallucination. Our protagonist snaps her out of her thoughts and tells her to get back to work. He points to her old desk and motivates her to become the company's first manager. With a determined smile, the woman sits down and assures him she'll do her best, which leaves Meng-Shu satisfied with her attitude. Without wasting time, she starts working on the computer while our hero walks away, and the system confirms that the new employee is already on the job. With a confident smile, Meng-Shu thinks there's hope for this new employee and that she has a lot of potential. He then announces that he needs to leave to handle the company's paperwork at various places like the bank and the administration office. Shen Zhaoxiao stares at the screen with an annoyed expression, finding it ridiculous to worry about legalizing the company in the middle of the apocalypse. Our protagonist also reveals that he's going to look for a new high-level talent and instructs her to receive them well and hide the true nature of her other 2 colleagues. With this, he feels confident in his plan, knowing that an experienced bodyguard is crucial for survival and the growth of his new empire. Suddenly, a system notification appears before his eyes. The screen congratulates him on successfully starting his company and rewards him with experience, 1 attribute point, 1 skill point, and 100,000 in cash. A note informs him that the money will be stored in the system and can be withdrawn, and then he prepares for his next task. With fire in his eyes, our hero decides to use his new attribute point immediately, and without hesitation, he adds it to strength. A golden aura explodes around him, and he feels his body become even more powerful and ready for the challenges to come. The system screen displays his current status, showing his 3 professions: office clerk, intern, flyer distributor, and now president. His attributes are also updated, and his strength is now 14. He flexes his bicep, proud of his new form. Our protagonist checks his pocket and sees that he now has 10 points and 162,000 in total assets. With a satisfied smile, he analyzes his professional skills, killing time, and read people. In a moment of pure excitement, he imagines taking his new company to the top of the world while Shen Jiaxiao stares at him, completely clueless. She takes advantage of the boss being away to complain to her friends in an online group about the madness of starting a company in the middle of an apocalypse. The woman is sweating and completely panicked, not knowing what to do in this bizarre situation. To make matters worse, she peeks through the door and sees her 2 zombie colleagues staring at her menacingly. Desperate, she returns to the computer and starts begging for help in the online group, as the situation is very urgent. Meanwhile, our hero arrives at the parking garage and starts looking for the bodyguard he summoned with the system item. Suddenly, the lights of a red sports car flash right beside him, catching his attention. He approaches the vehicle, thinking it must belong to the new talent he's looking for. Meng-Su tries to open the car door, but to his surprise, it's locked. At that moment, the system notifies him that to solve his new company's transportation problems, he has gained a part-time job as a rideshare driver. The protagonist stares at his reflection in the car window, which seems much darker and more sinister than usual. The system advises him to face life with a smile to attract good luck, but our hero takes the advice a little too seriously. With a completely insane smile, he shouts for the zombies to be polite as he attacks them without mercy. During the battle, he even recognizes one of the creatures as Uncle Wong and mocks him, saying he didn't even know he had become a boss. Hiding nearby, a group of survivors watches in terror as one of them tries to cover a woman's mouth to muffle her screams. Not caring about the audience, the protagonist runs another zombie through with his spear, leaving the survivors even more terrified. With a mocking smile, he recognizes another creature as Old Zhao, showing he knew the neighborhood well. Faced with that terrifying scene, 2 of the survivors despair and try to flee by running through the parking garage, but Meng-Su doesn't let them escape and leaps toward them with a threatening look, ready to teach them a lesson. The tip of his improvised spear drips with the dark fluid of the creatures he defeated, showing the brutality of the combat. After clearing the path, our hero stands over one of the bodies and complains about how exhausting the work is. He sits down to rest and laments that the zombies attack him, as it would be much easier to distribute flyers if they were friendly. Looking at the parking garage, now filled with bodies, he wonders if anyone will still request a rideshare. He approaches the red car and finds the idea of someone calling a driver from inside a garage completely nonsensical. However, as soon as he touches the steering wheel, the car's engine roars and flames shoot out from the front of the vehicle. From there, the car takes off at high speed, tires screeching, and speeds out of the parking garage. Elsewhere, a man desperately searches for some medicine, but the bottle in his hand is completely empty. He throws the empty containers on the table, confirming there's nothing left to help his family. Leaning on the table, frustration takes over in the face of the desperate situation. With clenched teeth, he shows his determination not to give up, even without resources. The scene widens to reveal a sick child in bed with her mother by her side. While the man watches from the doorway, the woman checks the thermometer and finds that her daughter's high fever isn't breaking at all. He then informs her that the medicine has run out, and his wife breaks down in tears, not knowing what to do. The man feels helpless and wonders what their next step will be now that they're out of options. From there, his expression changes, and with a determined look, he tells his wife he needs to go out. The woman begs him not to go, knowing the dangers that await him outside. He comforts her, saying the situation is already bad, and it's time to risk everything. Thus, he says goodbye and asks her to take care of the child while he looks for help. The world outside is complete chaos, with destroyed buildings and zombies everywhere. After running for only half an hour, the man is already exhausted and needs to stop to rest. Sweating heavily, he complains about how terrible getting old is, leaving him out of breath so quickly. Suddenly, he hears the zombies approaching and screams desperately for them not to chase him. The street is infested with creatures, and he runs for his life, begging not to perish. In that instant, another survivor in a red sweatshirt leaps toward him. The guy in red lands right in front of him, blocking the path. Without hesitation, the traitor kicks him hard, sending him toward the zombies. The impact sends him to the ground, at the mercy of the slowly approaching creatures. The guy in the sweatshirt apologizes, saying he doesn't want to go either, and that he needs a distraction. Lying on the ground, the man is in shock and can't believe believe what just happened. Terror fills his face as he stares at his terrible fate. Soon after, the zombies surround him from all sides, ready to attack. The creature's hands get closer to his head, and he accepts that this is his end, but suddenly a red car appears at high speed, honking non-stop. The vehicle runs over the creatures without mercy, sending them all flying and saving the man. With his face splattered, he is in shock, not understanding where that unexpected help came from. Looking at the car, he sees our protagonist in the driver's seat with a calm smile on his face. Our protagonist leans out of the car and asks the man if he needs a ride, offering the basic fare if the destination is nearby. The system then notifies him that for his first ride, he has earned 3,000 in cash, increasing the company's balance to 167,000. A new screen appears, explaining that a perfect life requires being a generous boss, and that paying well prevents employees from quitting. Mengshu panics as he realizes he promised a salary of 20,000 to Shen Jiaozhao and still needs to pay 10,000 to each of the zombies. Meanwhile, back at the office, the new employee suddenly sneezes, feeling a chill. She looks exhausted and sick as she continues to work at the computer without complaining. Her two zombie colleagues watch her with a threatening expression, making the situation even more bizarre. Back on the street, our hero sighs and asks the man what he's doing there and where he's going. The man explains that he's an HR manager and needs to go to the pharmacy to get medicine for his sick daughter. And the protagonist questions why he isn't using his own car. He reveals that he sold his vehicle because of the bad economy and that driving makes a lot of noise and attracts zombies, leaving him completely confused by the whole situation. Our protagonist agrees that the economy is terrible and complains that even he, a company boss, has to drive for a rideshare app to afford salaries. The scene leaves the two men in a moment of complete confusion about the strange reality they are living in. With a sudden change in attitude, Mengshu introduces himself as the president of Peace and Order and offers him a job with a high salary. The generous offer is 3,000 a month, with housing and food included, which leaves the man speechless. Mengshu then explains that he's on his way to handle the company's bureaucracy and that the pharmacy is on the way, so he can drop him off there without a problem. The man thinks our protagonist isn't all there, but decides it's better to live a weird life than not live at all. Because of this, he shakes Mengshu's hand and says that first, they need to go to the pharmacy, which isn't too far away. Our protagonist grabs the man with exaggerated enthusiasm, saying they can have a good chat on the way. With all this crazy energy, the desperate father starts to feel his own sanity slipping away. Once inside the car, our hero strikes up a conversation and asks where the man's daughter studies and if her grades are good. Without worrying about the undead traffic, Mengshu floors it and runs over the horde that was in the way. The passenger looks terrified at the creatures outside while our protagonist complains about the impatience of people who want a ride without seeing that the car is already full. He then gets annoyed with one of the zombies and punches it through the window, telling it to stop following them. He then shouts that the car is full and he's not taking anyone else, as this is a rideshare, not a charity ride. The man is shocked by the scene and wonders how this young man is already so stressed after surviving for only 3 days. Faced with the situation, our hero floors the gas pedal and makes a sharp turn to get away. With the abrupt maneuver, the passenger is thrown against the car window while Mengshu drives with a sour look on his face. The passenger recovers from the scare and asks Mengshu what's wrong. With the utmost calm, our protagonist simply replies nothing and lights a cigarette. He then explains that he was just waiting for the red light and offers a cigarette to the man, who is left completely clueless. The HR manager looks out the window at the ruined city and the red light, not understanding our protagonist's calmness. Soon after, a horde of zombies approaches, running towards their car. The creatures surround the vehicle and start banging on the windows, trying to get in. With the utmost tranquility, our hero comments that these guys are very rude for not respecting traffic laws. Seeing a zombie's hand on the window, the passenger panics and yells for Mengshu to step on it, as they can't just sit there at the end of the world. Our protagonist then scolds the man for suggesting he run a red light and reminds him of the fine and the points he would lose on his license. Faced with this madness, the HR manager regrets getting into that car and questions his own sanity. The car remains stopped in the middle of the street, surrounded by zombies, as the light turns yellow. Finally, the light turns green, and they can continue on their way. With that, Mengshu floors the accelerator, and the car shoots forward, running over all the creatures in front of it. The man is impressed with our hero's driving skills, who just gives a confident smile. The protagonist then remembers that he's been playing a racing game for 10 years, and that he knows very well what a nitro boost is. Suddenly, Mengshu Shu's expression changes as he looks in the rearview mirror. He warns the passenger that a car is following them. The desperate father looks back, worried, and asks what they want, even suggesting it might be another driver trying to steal his customer. Meng Shu scoffs at the passenger's idea and says there are no more rideshare drivers at the end of the world. He supposes they must be other survivors trying to rob them, and the man is surprised to see he can talk like a normal person. The passenger gets curious and asks what the other possibility is, while our protagonist flashes a sinister smile. With a completely crazed expression, Meng Shu says that maybe it's the zombies he took out in the parking garage seeking revenge, and that he'll finish them off when they stop, which leaves the desperate father thinking the world has gone completely mad. The man tries to stay calm and, with a nervous smile, says he thinks zombies probably don't know how to drive. Our hero agrees with him and says that in that case, they must be people, and they'll figure out a way to trick them to see what they want. With a focused gaze, he starts to devise a plan to handle the situation. Suddenly, the passenger notices a change in the protagonist's face and asks what's happening. A system notification informs him that the bodyguard he summoned has appeared nearby, and he wonders if it could be someone in the car behind them, but dismisses the idea since the system would have warned him. At that moment, the man points forward in a panic and yells for our hero to look at what's coming. Right in front of them, a giant muscular zombie blocks the path, holding another smaller creature. The system screen analyzes the monster and identifies it as a level 3, strength-type mutant zombie. The protagonist is completely shocked and yells at the system, wondering if that monster is the bodyguard he was supposed to meet. The passenger suggests they just run the creature over, but our protagonist says their priority is to handle business and get the medicine. So, he floors it and uses the breeze on the side of the road as a ramp to jump over the giant zombie. After the risky maneuver, he steps on it and manages to get past the monster, leaving it behind in the dust. Our protagonist looks back at the giant zombie and says he may be crazy, but he's not an idiot, and that creature looks pretty tough to handle. Because of that, he floors the accelerator and flies past the monster without a second thought about stopping. The overhead view shows the red car speeding away while the silver vehicle that was following them is left behind with the zombie in the middle of the street. Inside the other car, a girl with pink hair says she's scared and suggests they turn around to avoid the danger. The driver, with a mocking smile, reassures her, saying there's no reason to worry since the car in front was clearing the way. With a malicious look, he decides to seize the opportunity and move forward without fear. Thus, the silver car accelerates towards the mutant zombie that was left behind at the intersection. The giant creature notices the new target approaching and turns to face it, ready for combat. Its red eyes glow with a murderous fury as it prepares to attack. Now at a safe distance, the HR manager asks our hero what that thing was, as it looked different from the other zombies. Meng Shu responds with a serious expression that the thing could only be the advanced bodyguard the system mentioned. The passenger is completely confused and, not understanding a thing, asks what a bodyguard would be. Right behind them, the silver car continues to get closer and closer to the green monster waiting for them. Suddenly, a gigantic explosion occurs right where the zombie was. Our protagonist continues to drive calmly while the sky behind them turns completely red from the explosion. After arriving at a safe place, our hero asks for payment for the ride, and the man asks if he can pay with a card and hands his to Meng Shu. With the card in hand, the protagonist says the money is useful for paying his employees' salaries. With that, the system notifies him that the first ride was a success and rewards him with experience, money, and another attribute point, which he decides to put into strength. The HR manager observes the scene and concludes that although Meng Shu is crazy, he's a good kind of crazy. He also realizes that without our hero's help, he would already be gone, and that staying by his side is his best chance of survival. With a determined look, the man makes his decision and decides to go along with this madness. The passenger then strikes up a conversation and asks how many employees the company has and if there's enough food for everyone. Our protagonist seizes the opportunity and asks if he wants to join the company, asking him to introduce himself for an evaluation. The man introduces himself as Zhang Lumping, a former HR manager from a brewery, and reveals that he originally studied to be an electrician. Our hero is excited by the news and says an electrician is exactly what the company needs, as they're just starting out. The new employee then asks if he can bring his wife and son along, and with a smile, Meng Shu agrees on the spot. Suddenly, the system warns him that child labor is prohibited, but our protagonist thinks that if he doesn't pay the boy, it doesn't count as employment. With his foolproof plan in mind, he reassures Zhang Lumping and says his whole family is welcome at the company. The system detects the new employee's desire to work and Meng Shu's agreement to hire him and his wife, then tells our hero to negotiate their salaries. Our protagonist then asks about their salary expectations, but Zhang Lumping says he doesn't need a salary and just wants to work hard. With that response, our hero is completely moved, his eyes shining. He then holds the new employee's hands and says he's very important to the company, but the system interrupts him with a warning that the company's employees have a minimum salary requirement. The system's notification leaves our protagonist completely speechless and with a sour look on his face, but he quickly changes his posture and scolds the new employee, asking if he thinks the company is a feudal empire and that in a modern company, employees must be paid for their work. Our hero even shouts that this is an eternal principle and it cannot be broken. With that, he says that since the man is new to the company, he will hire him as an intern and offers a monthly salary. He then completes the offer with 8,000 a month and asks if that sounds good to him. The system then displays the internship rules, which can last a maximum of 3 months, after which the intern becomes an employee with a slightly lower salary than the others. Faced with the generous offer, Zhang Lumping accepts on the spot and says he is willing to join the company. Thus, Mengshu shakes his hand and welcomes him, saying that from that moment on, the company is his home. Our protagonist then says there won't be time to handle the paperwork and suggests the man go get the medicine for his daughter while he goes back to his apartment. Before leaving, he hands a kitchen knife to his new employee and warns him that it's only for self-defense and that he shouldn't break the law. Our hero stares at him with a serious and determined look, waiting for a response. With the knife in hand, Zhang Lumping promises that he will definitely follow the laws. After that, Mengshu speeds off in the car and leaves, leaving his new employee alone in front of the pharmacy. The desperate father stands on the sidewalk with the knife in his hand, not quite sure what to do, but soon after he breaks into a smile, feeling much safer with his new weapon. After dropping off his new employee at the pharmacy, our protagonist finally arrives at his apartment. As soon as he enters, he looks very tired after a long day of work. Because of this, he throws his dirty shirt on the floor, preparing to rest. Completely exhausted, he throws himself onto the bed and thinks about how wonderful his life is now that he has a company and helpful neighbors. From there, he stretches and decides he'll take a shower and get a good night's sleep, as tomorrow will be a new day. Lying in bed, the system informs him that a perfect life starts with perfect sleep, and our hero is happy to know he can earn rewards even while sleeping. That thought fills him with determination for what's to come. With a satisfied smile, he concludes that his life is now truly perfect. 2 days pass, and after handling all the bureaucracy, our protagonist prepares to return to the company, so he steps on the gas and speeds his car through the destroyed city streets. This time, Zhang Lumping is driving while Mengshu relaxes in the passenger seat, looking at his phone. On the phone screen, he sees news about the formation of a citizens' rescue committee with the names of the leaders. He finds it strange that people are already organizing into response teams and feels that something isn't right about the story. Suddenly, his thoughts are interrupted by a system notification warning that a special talent is nearby. With that, our hero looks out the window and spots something that catches his attention in the middle of the street. In the middle of the street, he sees a giant mutant zombie lying on the ground, surrounded by a group of survivors. Our protagonist recognizes the wrecked car as the same one that was following them before and tells his new employee to stop the vehicle. On his command, the red car stops right in front of the scene, giving them a prime view of everything. Zhang Lumping observes the nearby zombies and wonders what his boss is planning, but decides to just follow his orders. Mengshu gets out of the car and with the utmost calm asks his employee what he thinks the fallen zombie is doing. Then our hero grabs an axe and, with a mocking smile, says it looks like the monster is just waiting for work. Without wasting time, he advances toward the fallen creature while the other zombies prepare to attack him. Our hero then charges at the creatures with incredible speed. With a single swing, he cuts 2 zombies in half, clearing the path. He continues his relentless attack and finishes off another creature with a clean strike. From inside the car, Zhang Lumping is completely shocked by his new boss's strength. Already covered in splatters, our protagonist approaches the fallen monster and asks how much it earned today. The giant creature just grunts in response, showing it's still alive. With an amused smile, Mengshu realizes the monster wasn't waiting for work, but was actually run over and tells it to hang in there. As he gets closer, he notices the zombie's leg is healing and wonders if these creatures can regenerate. With his axe embedded in the creature, our protagonist tells it not to rush him. As he's thinking, he realizes that this zombie is different from the others and starts to wonder if he should study it to better understand mutants. Watching from afar, Zhang Lumping thinks that even though his boss isn't normal, he truly cares about his employees. Without wasting any more time, he raises the axe and severs the creature's leg with a single blow. Our hero stands over the defeated monster, holding the leg he just chopped off. Soon after, he throws the limb away, unconcerned by the scene. With a fierce expression, he continues to attack the creature relentlessly, showing off all his strength. Leaning against the car, his new employee lights a cigarette, completely shocked by the brutality of the scene. Zhang Lumping questions him about the legality of his actions, but our hero simply replies that it's not a person, it's a zombie. With a sinister smile, he asks if there happens to be a law for protecting zombies. He then explains that he felt something strange about that monster monster, and that studying it is scientific research work to discover its weaknesses. For his research, he grabs a lug wrench, ready to begin the analysis. He charges at the creature with the tool in hand, ready for the next step of his study. With a direct hit, he smashes the monster's head with the lug wrench, causing considerable damage. The scene leaves his employee completely terrified and covered in splatters. Crouched over the monster, our protagonist continues his analysis with the lug wrench. To his surprise, he finds a bright red crystal inside the creature's head and wonders if it's meant to grant superpowers. His employee approaches and asks what it is, but our hero, all grimy, just asks for a tissue to wipe his hand. Without questioning, the man hands what appears to be a piece of paper to his boss. With that, our protagonist uses the paper to carefully pick up the crystal, avoiding direct contact. With the item in hand, he stands up and tells his employee it's time to head back to the company. He concludes that he needs to find an expert to study the crystal, and that his job as president is just to lead the company well. A short time later, they finally arrive at the company building, concluding their first business trip. The first mission of peace and order was a success, as they not only handled the bureaucracy, but also hired 3 new talents. As he watches his boss, Jung Lumping questions if he really found a new job in this environment, and concludes that his own sanity is long gone. Once inside the building, our hero announces that the company requires weekly reports, and his new employee assures him he will record everything objectively. Our protagonist gets annoyed by the names the man mentioned and thinks one makes money off women and the other off children. With a fiery aura around him, he declares that the money he will make will come from everyone, men, women, and old. He then looks at his new intern and, with a smile, thinks that he's very malleable and has a great chance of being hired full-time in 3 months. As they enter the building, they are met by a large, strong man with a yellow cap waiting for them at the reception. Suddenly, the man reveals himself to be a zombie and lunges at them, ready to attack, but Meng Shu isn't intimidated and, with his axe in hand, prepares for combat. With a direct hit, our protagonist strikes the creature and yells that they are neighbors and that he should have better manners. After the small lesson, Jung Lumping applauds his boss, and our hero says he likes hardworking people who are willing to learn. The next day, a new workday begins at the Peace and Order Company. Jung Lumping arrives with his family and instructs his daughter to respect the boss and pretend the apocalypse isn't happening. He explains to his wife that if they don't work, they won't have anything to eat. The woman then realizes that maybe her new boss isn't as crazy as she thought, but her husband interrupts her and insists that Meng Ju's mental state is perfectly normal and tells her to get ready to meet him. He then asks his wife to hand him all the bank cards and the family's savings. With a determined look, he announces that he's going to do something very big with that money. As they enter the office, they find Shen Zhaozhao and our protagonist already working at their desks. The young woman is completely focused on her tasks, typing nonstop on the computer. Jung Lumping then introduces his family to Meng Shu, who welcomes them with a smile and says there are plenty of empty desks for them to choose from. Because of this, our hero instructs the woman to take the child to find a place to sit, and she agrees without question. Jung Lumping's wife is completely lost in the situation and wonders where she is and what is happening. As the new family settles in, Shen Zhaozhou continues to work at her desk but seems very annoyed by the conversation happening behind her. From there, Jung Lumping approaches our protagonist and, with a smile, offers his credit card as a small gift. Our hero gets super excited about the bribe and thinks his new employee knows exactly how things work to get ahead in life, but the system quickly puts an end to his joy and scolds him for even considering accepting the bribe, which leaves Meng Shu quite frustrated with so many rules. Forced to act correctly, our protagonist leans back in his chair and tells Jung Lumping how disappointed he is with his attitude. The new employee immediately apologizes for trying to use a bribe to get a promotion, and our hero accepts the apology but warns him not to repeat the mistake. Shen Zhaozhao overhears the whole conversation and is surprised to see how this strange company is actually quite legitimate. Jung Lumping then asks about his chances of being hired full-time, and Meng Shu encourages him, saying that if he works hard, the company will surely promote him. However, inside, he thinks it's a bit ambitious for someone who just arrived to already be thinking about a promotion. So, our protagonist tells Shen Zhaozhao to print 2 work contracts for the new employees to officiate their entry into the team. The woman complains that the power is out and she couldn't finish her work, but Meng Shu just tells her to write everything by hand if necessary. He then scolds her for her lack of initiative and, as punishment, cuts her salary in half from 20,000 to 10,000. Shen Zhaozhao accepts the punishment without complaint and admits that the error in judgment was was hers. Our hero then instructs her to take the couple to the conference room to sign the contracts and also to make copies for Shi Wei, manager Zhang, and 2 more new employees who are on their way. With a smile, Shen Jiazhao agrees to her boss's orders, ready to carry out her tasks. Soon after, the system informs Meng Shu that the company is now fully operational and that he can hold a meeting to restructure the positions. A new task is activated to hold said meeting, and the reward is 50 experience points, 10 attribute points, and another 3 skill points. Our protagonist gets super excited about the generous reward and decides he absolutely has to hold that meeting. Without wasting time, he calls Qi Wei and manager Zhang and invites them to go with him to the meeting. He then enters the conference room and informs everyone that the meeting will start first and that the contract copies can wait. With the boss's arrival, everyone stands up as a sign of respect, showing the seriousness of the moment. Zhang Lumping then pulls out the chair for our hero to sit, showing his suck upside. His wife is confused by her husband's attitude but soon gets the message. The woman then lights up and realizes what she needs to do to please the new boss. She then approaches and offers a soda to Meng Shu, showing she knows how to play the game too. Our protagonist praises the quality of his new employees and says they are impeccable. Meanwhile, Shen Jiazhou watches the whole scene with a sour look on her face, feeling like she's being left behind. The woman then taps her pen on the table forcefully, showing her frustration. With a fiery aura around her, she stands up and declares that she is the veteran employee the boss likes the most, and that the newbies shouldn't get too full of themselves. Shen Jiazhou doesn't fall behind and offers to massage her boss's shoulders, saying he must be tired from his business trip. She boasts about being a graduate of a good university and knowing how to handle social situations, while our protagonist just enjoys the moment. The scene in the meeting room is quite bizarre, with Qi Wei, manager Zhang, and even the child sleeping soundly on the table. Our protagonist then takes a sip of his drink and finally asks for silence so everyone can calm down. With everyone's attention, he prepares to start the company's first official meeting. He begins to restructure the company, creating 2 business divisions, one for sanitation and cleaning, and another for communication and services, with new leaders and positions for everyone. He then establishes the most important rule of the company: harmonious coexistence between humans and zombies, without any kind of discrimination. Faced with the new rule, the human employees applaud the decision, while the zombies just grunt in approval. Our hero then opens the floor for questions and says the company champions freedom of speech. With that, he gives the floor to Shen Jiazhou, who seems to have something important to say. The woman asks what the company's main focus will be, and he explains that they will handle the cleaning of the building and also take calls from Wangxiang International. The system notifies him of his employees' excellent performance, and he tells her to write the contracts by hand and prepare spreadsheets to send the new couple to another company. With everything settled, our protagonist adjourns the meeting, and everyone seems satisfied with the plan of action. The system congratulates him on the decisive and efficient meeting and informs him that now he just needs to solve the problems with the other company to be able to relax. The task is completed with a perfect rating, and without a second thought, our hero puts all his new attribute points into agility. With the meeting adjourned, our protagonist dismisses all the employees, but as he leaves the room, he finds Qi Wei and manager Zhang enjoying a snack. He stands there watching the scene while the 2 continue their feast without even noticing the boss's presence. Suddenly, the red crystal he wears as a necklace begins to glow intensely. With the glow, the 2 creatures stop eating immediately and look at him. Completely mesmerized, our hero then realizes what's happening and holds the necklace, asking if that's what they want. Like 2 puppies, they get super excited, and our protagonist discovers that it's an evolution crystal. With this new discovery, he now has the perfect tool to control his zombie employees. He then turns to the human employees and tells them to finish the contracts and tidy up the office. With a confident smile, our protagonist declares that they have 3 days to clean the entire building and turn it into a real company. He then dangles the crystal on the end of a stick and tells them to find out what that ruby does as quickly as possible. The system then displays a detailed description of the item, which is a basic, strength-type evolution crystal, but it has a high chance of viral infection. Our hero analyzes the information and understands that eating the crystal grants a strength enhancement. With a mischievous smile, he thinks he's found the best way to direct his employees, so he establishes the new company rule: whoever bites people gets no rubies, and the 2 zombies become desperate to reach the crystal. With a smile on his face, our hero tells his 2 zombie employees to work hard and clean the company. The 2 creatures seem super motivated and ready to start the general cleanup of the building. Faced with their excitement, the protagonist says he'll take that as a yes and that they understood the order. At that moment, his human employees appear at the door and inform him that the contracts are ready for him to sign, and our hero says he's on his way. Once in the office, he finds his new employee's family and asks the woman if her daughter is feeling better after taking the medicine. Zhang Lumping's wife replies that although the fever has passed, the girl is still not well, and she doesn't know why. Our protagonist protagonist then tells her to pay attention to her daughter's health while she works, as children are the future. From there, the system notifies him that taking care of subordinates is the most important thing for a good boss and reveals that the girl has a special mutant inflammation that is beginning to spread. A new task is activated for him to take care of his employees and treat the inflammation, and our hero is shocked by the mission. With an annoyed expression, he thinks that he doesn't know how to cure anything and only knows remedies for stomachaches and colds. But suddenly he has an idea and opens the system shop to see if he can find any special medicine there. Upon opening the shop, he finds a box of cold medicine that seems to be the solution to his problem. Without a second thought, he confirms the purchase and the system notifies him that the exchange was successful. The box of medicine then appears in his hand while Zhang Lumping's wife stares at him, completely clueless. With a confident smile, he makes up an excuse and says that a friend of his developed that special medicine and that if she gives it to her daughter, the girl will get better. As he prepares to leave, Zhang Lumping asks where the boss is going, and Shen Jiazhou offers to go with him, saying she has practiced her flyer distribution technique. The woman shows great determination and guarantees that she can now deliver the flyers very quickly and can certainly help. But our protagonist interrupts her with a serious expression and says it's not about distributing flyers, which leaves the employee worried about proving her worth. He then explains that Wanxiang International has many employees and that he's going there to find Supervisor Lin to help them downsize. With an axe in hand and a sinister smile, our hero prepares to leave, leaving his 3 employees completely clueless. He declares that in the past he was timid and could only take out zombies with positioning, but today he's going all out and will use zombies to take out other zombies. With that, he says goodbye and leaves while his employees wish him to be careful. As soon as he leaves the office, the others fall silent and Shen Jiazhou signals for no one to speak. Zhang Lumping's wife then asks her husband if they should really give that medicine to their daughter, and he replies that Meng Shu wouldn't harm them and that they need to try everything. The man adds that at this point, they have no other choice, and the two walk across the office toward their daughter. Getting close to the girl, the mother offers her the medicine to take with a glass of water. The child then takes the glass and drinks the entire contents without complaining. Her parents watch the scene, completely nervous and anxious about the result. Suddenly, the girl opens her eyes, looking completely cured, and with a smile, she calls for her mother. She then points to her father and says her mom lied and that he didn't have any plastic surgery, leaving the two completely confused by the situation. The parents are completely embarrassed by their daughter's comment and don't know what to say. Putting the confusion aside, the mother hugs her daughter tightly, while the father celebrates happily that she's okay. Meanwhile, Shen Jiazhou cries quietly by the door, wondering how her parents are doing now. But soon after, she turns around in shock upon realizing the girl recovered in less than a minute after taking the medicine. She begins to wonder if she has somehow joined a corporation like Umbrella and concludes that her boss, Meng Shu, is simply incredible. Far away, our protagonist climbs the stairs with his axe on his shoulder, ready for his mission. The system congratulates him on his kindness in spending 20 points to treat an employee's daughter and says it's proud that he hasn't lost his humanity. The task is completed with a super perfect rating and he gains 15 experience, 50,000 in cash, 5 points, and another attribute point. In addition, he unlocks a secret achievement of being talented and virtuous, which gives him another half attribute point and 5,000 in cash. Our hero is super happy with the praise and even asks the system to keep complimenting him because he loves hearing it. With a smug smile, he decides to add his new points to spirit and reaches level 20 so that no one will dare say his mental state isn't normal again. He analyzes his stats and concludes that although good, his constitution and spirit are still low and decides that next time he will focus on maximizing his speed first. Continuing on his way, he comes across 2 zombies at the top of the stairs, blocking the passage. The 2 creatures are level 1 zombies and seem ready to attack at any moment. With a determined look, our protagonist declares that in the apocalypse, having too many employees isn't good for business, and he's going to help them downsize. With that, he advances and lays off the first employee with an axe swing for poor customer service. After dealing with the first one, our hero runs up the stairs towards the next target. He then lays off the second creature for a lack of basic professional competence. With the path clear, he climbs the blood-stained stairs and hears noises coming from behind a large wooden door. With a mocking smile and a dirty face, he comments that he's being honored with a grand reception. He stops in front of the door, introduces himself as Meng Shu from Peace and Order, and announces that he's here to help with the downsizing. Upon Upon entering the office, he is faced with another horde of zombies, and the battle resumes. Our protagonist moves with agility and lands a solid hit on a zombie with his axe. He continues the deadly dance, dodging attacks and counter-attacking non-stop. A satisfied smile appears on his face as he enjoys the cleanup. In a short time, the office floor is covered with laid-off employees, and our hero declares the job done. He then approaches the last door and tells Supervisor Lin not to get so excited, as he feels honored to help with the layoffs, and even offers him a job at his company. Meanwhile, outside the building, life seems to follow its chaotic course. But in a nearby fruit shop, a familiar face peeks through the window. The blonde guy who had fled before watches the street from his hideout, which is also filled with defeated creatures. With an air of superiority, the blonde guy, who we now know is named Meng Zunpeng, a former deputy manager of Wanxiang International, declares that no one should fight him for resources. Accompanied by another survivor, he threatens that otherwise, he will finish off everyone who gets in his way. With a sadistic smile, he comments that the apocalypse is great because he can do whatever he wants without consequences, and that it would be nice if more survivors showed up for him to play with. Suddenly, he notices someone approaching and tells his two companions to work faster. Peeking through the window, he is completely shocked by what he sees outside. He doesn't understand how a human is walking with zombies, and how the creatures seem to be moving. Suddenly, something even more bizarre happens, and a fried chicken stall comes flying down the street. The guy is completely panicked and wonders what the heck that is. Meanwhile, the system informs our protagonist that all of Wanxiang International's night shift employees have been laid off and that he has 3 new options. The first phase of the task was completed successfully, and he receives experience points and 500,000 in cash. Even the zombie manager comments that throwing the old manager in the trash might complicate future collaborations. With a determined look, our hero chooses the first option, which is to continue the fight. The other options were to expand gradually or to seek a win-win cooperation with the other company. He decides to add his 1.5 point to agility, but then thinks better of it and decides to save the experience points for now. Looking at the building, he declares that he won't feel at ease until he has full control of the place. At that moment, the system notifies him that employee K3, the leader of Team 1 of the sanitation and cleaning department, has arrived at the designated location. Our protagonist looks at the fried chicken stall and realizes this means he can do missions while eating. With that, he approaches his new employee, a red-haired zombie, and praises him for having worked hard on his journey. Hiding in his hideout, Meng Zunpeng is completely shocked by the scene and wonders if he's going crazy, as he doesn't understand anything he's seeing. Our hero then gives the first order to the new employee, Li Xiang, which is to clear all the zombies from the 2nd and 3rd floors and then cooperate with the others for a complete cleanup. Without wasting time, he sends the creature to start the job, and the chicken stall shoots off at high speed. The red-haired zombie then leaps forward, ready to carry out its first cleaning mission. With impressive speed, the creature advances toward the building to begin the heavy lifting. Back in the hideout, Meng Zunpeng watches the scene, and one of his companions recognizes the zombie manager as the manager from the building downstairs. The blonde guy becomes curious about the situation and decides he needs to go see up close what makes that zombie different from the others. The scene then changes, showing the grandeur of the city's buildings, which are now in complete chaos. Our protagonist walks down a now clean hallway and praises the work, saying everything is orderly and full of vitality. Upon arriving at the office, the new employee couple greets him enthusiastically, calling for their boss. Soon after, the two bow in gratitude and say that Director Meng is the savior of their family. With a smile, our hero says that if they really want to thank him, they should just work hard to improve the company's productivity and become full-time employees soon. The couple then assures him they will do their best, and even the little girl thanks Uncle Meng, a bit scared of his appearance. Zhang Lumping scolds his daughter and says she should call him Grandpa Meng, but the girl replies that he's too young for that. The man thinks he wants more than that. He wants to venerate Director Meng as an ancestor because, without him, he would be nowhere. The little girl then calls our protagonist Grandpa Meng, and he pats her on the head, saying she is the future of peace and order. With a sinister smile, our hero thinks that if Director Meng pats you on the head, you'll happily work overtime. He then gives a speech to his employees and says the company is just starting, and that after they clean the 4th floor, everyone should go clean the other floors. The new family applauds the boss's speech, completely inspired by his words. Our protagonist says goodbye, saying he has some business plans to take care of, and tells everyone to get back to work. Suddenly, a system notification appears, informing him that his employee, Zhang Tao, had a work accident and passed away, which leaves our hero confused Confused, he panics when he sees he has to pay a compensation of 1.14 million yuan. Soon after, the system informs him that since the employee wasn't human, the compensation was reduced to 380,000 yuan, and that he can't appeal because he doesn't have a legal department. The screen continues to explain that having a legal department could reduce the compensation even further and praises our hero for agreeing to pay the compensation. With that, he unlocks the Pioneer of Conscience achievement and gains 100,000 in cash and half an attribute point, and our protagonist breathes a sigh of relief for not having to pay the full amount. His expression changes completely, and with a furious look, he realizes that someone dared to take out one of his employees. With a wicked smile, he thinks that the next time an employee is about to go, he needs to fire them first, as termination is always cheaper. He then turns to the couple and announces that one of his best employees, Zhang Tao, a company veteran, perished while working diligently. He continues his dramatic speech and says that Zhang Tao was his right-hand man even before the company existed, and that he accompanied him through the toughest times. With an Oscar-worthy performance, he throws himself back and screams that his heart is broken over his employee's passing. His sadness soon turns to fury, and he gets up, punching the wall as he asks who was responsible for it, then summons everyone to gather. With the entire team assembled, he orders them to get the cart with 200 fried chicken strips and prepare them, but warns that no one can eat, or they'll have to deal with him. Our protagonist then warns the group of humans to be careful and not to go to other floors, and Zhang Lumping assures him they will follow orders. From there, our hero declares that it's hunting time and that only he can take out his employees. Without a second thought, he decides to use his points on agility to start his revenge. The system confirms the decision, and his agility rises to 18, approaching human limits. Outside, a horde of zombies walks aimlessly down the street. Soon after, our protagonist and his two zombie companions, the creatures, ready to clear a path. With a command, our hero sends his two bodyguards forward, and they shoot off at high speed. The red-haired zombie leads the attack, its eyes glowing with fury. It lands a powerful punch on the head of one of the monsters. The creature continues its massacre and clears the path with ease, sending the other zombies flying. Its face shows all its fury as it advances non-stop. Their charge leads them straight to the fruit shop, where the enemy is hiding. Inside the fruit shop, Meng Zunping is in the middle of the carnage he himself caused to survive. He analyzes a piece of what's left of the zombie manager, not understanding why that creature was moving bodies, instead of just attacking like the others. Suddenly, the silence is broken by loud bangs on the shop's metal door. The blonde guy tenses up and wonders who could be knocking on the front door with all that chaos outside. Very cautiously, he goes to the window and peeks through a crack in the curtain to find out who it is. The street outside has turned into a real cemetery, with the bodies of all the zombies that attacked him scattered on the ground. One of his companions is completely shocked and wonders if all the creatures were really defeated. Meng Sunping then realizes there is still one zombie alive, banging on the glass door, but seems quite confident about the situation. A malicious smile appears on his face as he continues to watch what's happening. Outside, our protagonist stands with his axe in hand, all grimy, showing who is responsible for the cleanup. The blonde guy is terrified upon recognizing our hero and realizes he was the guy controlling the zombies, wondering if he was seen. Meng Shu laments that unfortunately, there is a human at the location where his employee was taken down and reflects that he can't just attack a person over a zombie. Because of this, he knocks on the shop door and yells for them to open up because they need to talk about something important. Meng Zumping is surprised to hear the voice and realizes the man outside is human. With a psychotic smile, he concludes that since his opponent is human, there's no other way out but to fight to the end. The blonde guy opens the shop door and, with a fake smile, apologizes to our hero, saying that times are tough and he was a bit too tense. He then introduces himself as Meng Junpeng, the deputy manager of Wangxiang International, and asks for the protagonist's name, trying to seem friendly. Our hero immediately realizes the guy is a venomous snake and that all this kindness is just a trap. Even so, he decides to play along and introduces himself as Meng Shu. The blonde guy gets all excited to find out they have the same last name and even jokes that they could be from the same family 500 years ago. With a smile, our protagonist agrees with the idea and says it's quite likely, but inside, he's already suspicious and decides to use his raid people ability to find out the truth about this guy. The system screen reveals that Meng Zunpeng is a level 3 corporate executive and also a psychologically disturbed killer who can level up if he takes out 4 more people. The guy then invites him to come in and talk, saying it's not safe outside. Our protagonist accepts the invitation and enters the shop, while the blonde guy thinks he's a real sucker, but before he could finish the thought, our hero turns the tables with a surprise kick. The blow lands squarely and sends Meng Zunpeng flying into the shop. With that, the guy falls to the ground, completely stunned and not understanding how he was tricked like that. With his foot on the enemy's back, our protagonist glares at him furiously and asks who gave him the nerve to take out one of his employees. The scene then pans away from the fruit shop, showing that our hero's revenge is just beginning. With a furious look, our protagonist accuses him of having taken out not only old Lou from the fruit shop, but also the other people who were in the alley. With his foot on Meng Zumpin's head, he stops him from speaking and glares at him with contempt. Then, our hero lands a powerful kick on the guy and yells that he's a beast who doesn't deserve to carry the Meng surname. Lying on the ground, the blonde guy begs for his life and says he was just trying to protect himself and that he's willing to work like a slave to be spared. The protagonist faces him with the axe in hand and recites his rights as if he were a police officer, warning that anything he says can and will be used against him. With a mischievous smile, our hero offers a chance of survival and says that everyone makes mistakes. From there, one of his zombie employees appears at the door with a threatening look. Meng Su then says that everything is understood without words as the creature approaches the kneeling guy. Putting revenge aside, he calls Chi Wei and tells her to start gathering the fruit from the shop. The red-haired zombie glares at Meng Shumping with a sinister smile, ready to teach the guy a lesson. Meanwhile, our hero has already started looting the shop and leaves carrying a box of apples. The system then scolds him for his vulgar attitude and informs him that Meng Zunpeng's favorability with him is now -100. The screen continues, saying the system is embarrassed by his speed at getting into trouble and recommends he create a legal department as soon as possible. Our protagonist reflects on the situation and concludes that he really needs a legal department so that compensation for employee incidents will be lower. Suddenly, he remembers the lawyer, Zhang Wei, who is on the floor above and realizes he's the perfect candidate for the job. Back at the fruit shop, our protagonist organizes the loot and tells Chi Wei to stop messing with the fruit, as she'll be responsible for carrying the mineral water. He then stops and stares at her with a serious expression, as if he noticed something different about her. The woman turns to him with a confused look, and suddenly her appearance seems much prettier, and even a glow of roses appears around her. Our hero is surprised and comments that her face seems to have gotten a little prettier than before. A system screen then appears, showing that she is now a level 1 zombie cleaner, and our protagonist concludes that even though she didn't do anything, leveling up is always good. The red-haired zombie roars behind them, and Meng Shu sighs, saying it seems Deputy Manager Meng didn't win the fight. Soon after, the creature drags the blonde guy out, who now seems to have turned into a zombie as well. The system shows that his favorability with our hero is at -100%, and Meng Shu wonders if he really needs to hate him that much. Faced with the situation, he decides to officially appoint Meng Jumping as the company's security dog with a salary of 8,000, and the system confirms the employment. With that, our protagonist gives the first order to his new employee, which is to go up and carry Zhang Tao's body to bury it somewhere empty. After settling everything, he returns to the office with his axe in hand, feeling victorious. As soon as he enters, his employees welcome him back, and Shen Jiazhao informs him that the 200 chicken strips he ordered are ready. With a proud smile, the woman explains that it was a team effort and asks if the department did well. Our hero then gives a thumbs up and says their work was excellent. Zhang Lumping and Shen Jiazhao exchange a knowing glance, showing the new team dynamic. Shen Jiazhao tells Director Meng that they heard about Zhang Tao's passing and that their hearts are broken, then presents a small gift on behalf of the group. The little girl then shows a bunch of colorful paper cranes they folded for Grandpa Meng. Our protagonist thanks them for the gesture and says that Zhang Tao will surely be happy and that he has already avenged him and brought in a new employee for the security department. Zhang Lumping's wife praises her husband for knowing exactly what the boss likes, and he replies that it was easy because he just went with the flow. With a serious expression, the man defends his boss and says that Director Meng's thinking is just ahead of its time. Our hero then says that since everyone has been so thoughtful, he has a new task for them, which is to go down and get the water and fruit resources he looted. He distributes 5 fried chicken strips to each of them and warns that the cost will be deducted from their salaries. Then, our protagonist calls Shen Zhao to go with him to get the rest of the chicken strips. Once in the hallway, the woman calls for Director Meng, somewhat hesitantly. She then holds his arm, which surprises him and leaves him confused by her action. With her hand stained with our hero's grime, she remains silent for a moment. He then tells her to prepare a simple contract to hire the lawyer Zhang for the company's new legal department. The woman is confused and asks if he's talking about the same lawyer Zhang who turned into a zombie. Our protagonist confirms with a smile and says the company is growing and a legal department is indispensable. Back in the office, Shen Jiazhao works on her computer, while the new employee couple cleans the place. The employee couple watches Shen Jiazhao from a distance, and the woman comments that since the girl came back from upstairs with Director Meng, she has been a bit out of it. The employee is traumatized by recent memories ears of her boss, discussing legal matters, selling fried chicken, and educating employees in a very peculiar way. Our protagonist then claps his hands to get everyone's attention and prepares to make an important announcement. With a smile, he introduces the new hire for the legal department, Lawyer Jung, who peeks through the door with a disgusted look. A system screen appears, detailing that the new employee is a level 1 zombie and a level 4 lawyer, and that his presence in the company reduces compensation by 5 times. Our hero welcomes the new colleague and says they will work together to make the company grow, and the zombie lawyer just growls in response. Mengshu is super satisfied with the new hire and thinks that the lawyer voluntarily accepted a pay cut and that his ability to reduce compensation was totally worth it. He then announces that the company's next task is to go down to the underground garage to transport the fruit they looted from the shop. The scene then shifts to a dark, destroyed city street, showing the chaos of the apocalypse. A large white bus emerges amidst the rubble, its headlights cutting through the darkness of the night. Inside the vehicle, several survivors cry in lament as they are escorted by heavily armed soldiers. One of the survivors, a man named Wen Yuan, feels relieved to have been rescued by the army and believes he wouldn't have survived the night alone. He looks at the other passengers and sighs, wondering how the world could have turned into a living nightmare overnight. Suddenly, a young man approaches him and introduces himself as Chen Bin, an architecture student who attended one of his lectures. The young man then leans in with a smile and tells Dean Wen that he doesn't live nearby. Wen Yuan shakes the young man's hand, confused by the situation. Suddenly, the young man's eyes glow red, and with a sinister smile, he reveals that he came there specifically to find him. With superhuman strength, he pulls the dean close while the man screams for help. One of the soldiers hears the screams and runs to see what's happening. The young man threatens Wen Yuan and says that if he doesn't perish, the grand plan to purify the world will be difficult to achieve, which leaves the dean completely terrified. The soldier arrives and asks what the young man said with a suspicious expression. 2 other soldiers approach and face the young man, ready to intervene. Without hesitation, the young man attacks one of the soldiers with a quick and precise blow. The other soldier reacts quickly and points his weapon at the aggressor. With a burst of gunfire, the soldier tries to stop the young man who is running towards him. Even after being hit by several shots, the young man continues to advance without slowing down. With impressive agility, he leaps over the bus seats. The bus driver is completely shocked to see the scene in the rearview mirror. Without wasting time, the young man reaches the front of the vehicle and threatens the driver. With a single punch, he shatters the glass and hits the driver squarely. The impact of the punch shatters the windshield, and the driver passes out instantly. From there, the bus loses control and Chen Bin jumps out while the soldiers unload their weapons on him. The shots hit the young man directly, but he seems not to care about the injuries at all. Inside, one of the soldiers takes the wheel and tries to turn the bus sharply to stop the vehicle. Soon after, the same soldier jumps out of the moving bus to save himself from the crash. With the sharp maneuver, the bus flips and slides down the street amidst sparks and smoke. Amidst the wreckage, Chen Bin's hand emerges, showing that he survived the crash without a problem. He then climbs on top of the overturned vehicle and wipes the corner of his mouth with a calm expression. One of the surviving soldiers gets up and points his weapon at the young man, ready to continue the fight. The soldier identifies him as an anti-social husper and declares that he needs to be taken down immediately. A flashback reveals that they received direct orders from their superiors to neutralize any anti-social espers they encountered. Determined to follow his orders, the soldier opens fire again on Chen Bin. With the new burst of gunfire, the young man is finally knocked off the top of the bus and falls to the ground. Even covered in wounds and bleeding heavily, Chen Bin starts to get up as if nothing had happened. The soldier is completely shocked by the scene and can't believe the young man is still alive. The young man uses a briefcase as an improvised shield as more soldiers approach for backup. The military continues to fire nonstop, determined to end this threat once and for all. Even with bullets piercing his body, Chen Bin's eyes glow red, and he advances without showing any pain. He finally reaches one of the soldiers, who calls him a monster in terror, and then attacks him without mercy. While the chaos unfolds, Wen Yuan takes advantage of the distraction to climb on top of the bus and escape. With an expression of pure terror, he looks at the battle scene, completely shocked. Without a second thought, the dean jumps to the other side of the vehicle to escape. From there, he runs through the dark, destroyed city streets, disappearing into the night. In a military command center, an officer reports that the rescue mission has failed and Wen Yuan's whereabouts are unknown. They begin to discuss the attackers, who call themselves the Hosen. A high-ranking officer looks concerned and reveals that this is not the first attack, and that the safe zone has been suffering from disappearances and zombie infiltrations. It is revealed that they had already captured one of these individuals, who said that the zombie crisis is a test from a lord, and that their ritual involves ending the lives of others. The officer is enraged by the information and slams his fist on the table, saying it's a cult. He reflects on the danger these people represent, as they appear normal, and remembers that the initial virus outbreak greatly weakened their military forces forces. Faced with the grave situation, he gives the difficult order to abandon some cities and retreat to shrink the perimeter of the safe zone. Exhausted, he leans back in his chair and sighs, concluding that at this moment, they can only solve one problem at a time. As night falls over the city and a red moon shines in the sky, the work at the Peace and Order Company is far from over. Our protagonist relaxes on the couch as the system congratulates him on completing another task with a perfect rating and officially names him the owner of a snack stall. With a thoughtful air, he reflects that since his customers gave him positive reviews, he will be kinder next time and won't let them suffer. But his kindness is short-lived, and with a furious expression he yells at his employees, asking who gave a bad review the last time he sold fried chicken. The scene returns to normal, and Shen Zhaozhao approaches our hero, who is now sitting on the couch with a serious expression. He complains that he can't make progress within the building and still needs more lawyers, while the president of Wangxiang International is nowhere to be found, and concludes that he needs to go out for fieldwork. The woman hears the part about fieldwork and, with a blush, thinks that director Meng's interested gaze was for her and wonders if that's appropriate. Without even noticing her reaction, our protagonist calls her by name and tells her to prepare the minutes, as he will be going on a mission the next day. To motivate the team, the scene shows a tray full of sausage skewers prepared for the meeting. In the conference room, he points to a globe and announces that to internationalize the company, they will adopt a joint work schedule between China and the United States. With a confident smile, he details the new work schedule, which starts at 8 in the morning New York time and ends at 5 in the afternoon Beijing time. Shen Zhaozhao is completely shocked by the proposal and yells that he's too much of a capitalist. With the utmost calm, our hero ignores the protest and calls for a democratic vote, asking those who agree to raise their hand, and that those who remain silent are also in agreement. The woman stands up and protests, saying that's not fair because, besides the 3 humans, all the other employees are zombies. With a mocking smile, our protagonist scolds her for going down the wrong path and demotes her to level K3, changing her position to acting team leader with no possibility of a salary reduction. The woman is confused by the decision, and he explains that she needs to see the big picture and that the transfer to the K2 department is for her own growth. With tears in her eyes, Shen Zhaozhao realizes she's being manipulated and feels completely powerless. Our protagonist continues the meeting and announces that he will leave the next morning and that security will be handled by Shi Wei and lawyer Zheng, while the others should collect supplies. Zhang Lumping's wife praises director Meng for being meticulous, and her husband agrees, saying that everything he says is pure wisdom and that they should write it all down. Shen Zhaozhao is disgusted by the flattery and calls the 2 of them slaves for humbling themselves so much. With a satisfied smile, our hero adjourns the meeting and tells everyone to get back to work. As soon as the others leave, the system notifies him that he has 14 experience points to distribute. Without a second thought, he decides to put all the points into his snack stall owner profession and levels up to 2, gaining more agility, constitution, and spirit. Sitting at his desk, he feels satisfied with his progress and motivates himself to keep evolving, even if it's getting harder and harder. The next morning, a new day begins in the city, which now seems a bit quieter. Outside the building, our protagonist prepares to leave for his field mission in his red car. Zhang Lumping's daughter approaches and hands him a paper crane, wishing him a safe trip. He pats the girl on the head and tells her to study hard while Grandpa Meng is away. Suddenly, he turns to Shen Zhaozhao and appoints her as the new group education manager, responsible for teaching the children. The little girl is completely confused and wonders why she still has to go to school in the middle of the apocalypse. With a smile, our hero replies that as long as the universe doesn't explode, school won't be closed. So, he says goodbye and gets into his car while his employees wish him a good trip. The protagonist speeds through the streets and thinks about his plan, which is to check the safe zone and invite new lawyers to the company. With a satisfied smile, he concludes that his plan is perfect and worthy of his genius. Suddenly, the car shakes violently and our hero is startled, not understanding what's happening. Looking ahead, he sees a man lying in the middle of the street right in front of his car. The man then gets up and reveals himself to be a zombie with red eyes and a license plate stuck to his chest. Our protagonist is annoyed that his car was damaged and warns the zombie that it chose the wrong path. Without wasting time, he floors the accelerator, ready to finish off that creature. The car shoots forward at high speed and hits the monster squarely with a powerful impact. With the crash, the creature is sent flying, but it seems that wasn't enough to stop it. Our hero looks in the rearview mirror and seeing that the zombie is still not down, he decides to use his red people ability. The system screen identifies it as a level level 1 Constitution-type mutant zombie. With an axe in hand, he gets out of the car and wonders if mutant zombies have become that common. He then faces the creature and yells for it to get lost, as he's not taking ride-share requests at the moment. Without any hesitation, our protagonist charges at the creature with his axe. He delivers a sequence of brutal blows against the monster. With one final move, he finishes the creature off once and for all. He then crouches next to the monster's remains and pretends to make a call, saying the situation isn't illegal and that he's hanging up. Sitting on the car's bumper, he raises a lug wrench and tells the mutant zombie that since it has no money, it can pay the compensation with crystals. Suddenly, he realizes someone is approaching from behind. It was a blue-haired zombie that our hero recognizes as Jiang Xiaqiu and comments on the coincidence of meeting again. The woman seems confused by the greeting and just growls in response. With a smile, he invites her to work with him, saying she looks presentable enough. Our protagonist then turns his attention back to the monster's remains and comments that this creature's head was much harder than the last one he faced. From within the formless mass, he pulls out a yellow evolution crystal. The system informs him that it's a Constitution-type crystal and that there's a 70% chance of turning into a zombie upon consuming it. He makes a disgusted face and says that only an idiot would eat that with such a high risk. The scene then shows our protagonist and Jiang Xiaqiu standing in front of the car. The woman stares at the crystal in his hand with a look of pure desire. Our protagonist then reflects on the difference between the gray-eyed and red-eyed zombies, but his attention soon turns to the dirt on his new companion. From there, he uses the system to buy a bottle of mineral water. With a snap of his fingers, the drink appears in his hand, ready to be used. With a charming smile, he approaches the woman and starts cleaning her face, saying that as an employee of peace and order, she needs to maintain a good image. Carefully, he continues the cleanup, wiping the dirt from her arms and showing a more chivalrous side. After the cleanup, he realizes her clothes don't match her new position in the company and suggests she should change. Soon after, our hero gets all flustered and says he's a gentleman, while the system warns him that taking a girl's clothes off without permission is harassment. Annoyed by the interruption, he argues with the system, which corrects his logic and states that silence means consent. The protagonist is completely confused, thinking there's nothing wrong with personally helping a subordinate get dressed. Without wasting any more time on arguments, he shatters the window of a nearby clothing store. Once inside the store, he helps his new employee choose a new outfit, saying they are a big company and need to maintain their image. The woman, now with a new look and a different hairstyle, just growls in response, not understanding the situation. Our protagonist becomes thoughtful and says he forgot a detail and can't figure out the right sizes. Suddenly, he unlocks the gentleman's secret achievement, gaining 5,000 in cash and half a spirit point, but his thoughts are interrupted by screams for help from outside. Looking at the reflection in the window, he comments that probably someone else got bitten and that they can't save everyone, while Jiang Xiaqiu just growls in agreement. On second thought, he says there's a medical university nearby and that the students there could be useful, suggesting they take a look. Then, our protagonist points in the direction of the screams as a horde of zombies runs down the street. With that, the two walk through the destroyed city streets toward the source of the noise. As they get closer, they find a group of survivors cornered by a crowd of zombies in a large hall. From a distance, our hero observes the scene and realizes that one of the survivors was attacked by a human, not a zombie, and concludes there's an internal conflict in the group. With a serious look, he turns to his new companion and tells her to wait for his command to act. Without hesitation, our protagonist sneaks up behind one of the survivors who has his back to him. With his axe in hand, he gets ready and charges at the purple-haired guy. He then delivers a direct hit to the man's back, who doesn't even notice the attack. Soon after, our hero joins the fight and helps the other survivors deal with the zombie horde. A short time later, the battle ends and the group of survivors is left amidst the bodies of the defeated creatures. One of the men complains to the purple-haired leader for being bitten despite being one of the chosen, and the leader replies that it's just to eliminate the useless ones. Suddenly, the leader notices our protagonist's presence, who is calmly eating a skewer. The system then activates and identifies the targets as genetic enhancers and psychopathic killers, and our hero wonders if there's anyone else there. With a friendly smile, he says not to worry because he's also one of the chosen and was sent by the Lord, while offering a sausage skewer for 3 yuan. The purple-haired leader approaches and says our protagonist doesn't have the look of one of the chosen, but our hero retorts that the Lord sent him with a purpose. Without even giving time for a response, our protagonist unleashes a powerful kick and hits another member of the group squarely. The leader is completely shocked by the scene and screams, calling our hero a beast and asking why he took out the guy. With the bloodied axe in his hand, our protagonist responds with a confident smile and says that it was just an arrangement from the Lord